Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar on Copilot. It's great to see so many of you on here this morning. I'm going to be going through our fantastic Copilot feature with you this morning, which is all about automating works. So essentially saving you guys time. Perfect, so just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Jessica Dubey and I will be taking you through this morning's webinar. Just to let you guys know, I am actually recording this webinar. I believe so. Yep, I am recording the webinar. Sorry, just had a moment there. So the webinar is being recorded and I will send this out to you all by the end of play today. So you will have a recording if you ever want to kind of rewatch any sections of it, or if I do go slightly too fast. But hopefully I will go at a steady pace, which suits everyone. This webinar should last approximately 45 minutes and that will include a Q&A. Perfect. So before we get started, I just want to go through a quick agenda with you all. So first up, I'm going to tell you an introduction to Copilot. It's good just before we start just to give a very quick introduction so everyone understands what the webinar's on. Then I'll be showing you how you can set up Copilot rules on your Fixflo site. After that, I'll be showing you an example of a Copilot rule in action. Then I'll be going through the importance of the order of the rules. And finally, guys, please don't miss the live Q&A. So any questions that you have, please get them over to me. It would really be great to answer your questions, and this really is your time. So I want to make sure that you really are getting the most benefits out of this, and that if you have any questions, you feel free to ask them. So leading on from that, any questions, please do ask them from the Q&A button. So you should have like a little Zoomer bar on your screen right now, and you should find a Q&A button there. If you could avoid chat and use Q&A instead, it just does tend to streamline absolutely everything. Perfect. So before we get started, I'm just going to quickly make live a poll. There are 5 questions on there. It's just good to get some feedback from you guys in terms of whether you have been using Copilot, and also just some feedback on out of 10 how happy you are with a few things on Fixflo. I will leave this poll open for a couple of minutes, and I really appreciate all of you taking a little bit of time just to answer those questions. They're relatively straightforward, and all of them will just have one answer per question. So question 1 is, have you already set up Copilot rules? Question 2 is, have you watched our Copilot videos? And then the last 3 questions are all out of 10s. So 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest. Question 3 is, how happy are you with how often your Fixflo is being used by your occupiers? Question 4 is out of 10. How happy are you with the training available on Fixflo? So we've started now doing these featured webinars, guys, to help you get up to date with features. We also have a full help site with videos, and we run webinars. We run 2 different webinars twice a week. Well, one twice a week and then the other once a week. So maybe you're not aware of that. If not, no worries. We can help you with all of those things. I can link things out if anyone's not sure. And the final question, guys, is out of 10, how happy are you with the overall Fixflo product? Guys, these are anonymous, so please feel free to be 100% honest with how happy you are with things. It's just good to get a full understanding of kind of how happy people are. Excellent. I'm going to keep this open just for another 20 seconds or so we reach the 2 minutes. And it looks from the results that most of you have not yet watched the Copilot video, so this is going to be completely new. So I'm going to go as a good pace, hopefully, for you all. And also, a lot of you haven't set up any Copilot rules. So it's really good that you've signed up to this. And hopefully this is something that you're really going to benefit from. Guys, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has completed the poll. I'm going to close it now. So thank you for that. Guys, the final thing I want to point out to you is that we are going to be asking for feedback from this webinar. Featured webinars is something that we've been running for the last couple of months. It's just good to get from you guys. Are you happy with what we're offering? Is this something you want more of? What kind of things do you want webinars on? You are the guys who are using Fixflo. It'd be really good to kind of know what you would like from us. Perfect. So on our agenda, the first thing I was going to mention to you was an introduction to Copilot. So guys, essentially, Copilot is your friendly works automated assistant, which will help you to automate works. So essentially, you can save yourselves time by, for example, if every single plumbing job in a certain area, you always instruct it to the same plumber, why not automate that? You can also do this for things like out of hours. So for example, weekends, evenings, I don't know, bank holidays. You can have that kind of 24-hour protection for your occupiers, and it's a really good offering for landlords as well. So you can automate things for speed and also for full protection as well. It's very easy to set up, but I can understand with some people it's a bit scary, the whole automation thing. So I'd say once you've watched this webinar, if this is something that you would like to introduce to your company, maybe test it first. Make sure you're fully happy with it. And then once you've got that, then you'll be good to go. You can set rules up and have this automated, helping you guys achieve better results, essentially. So you've got your little left-hand menu sidebar here, and it sits at the bottom of here, Copilot. If you click into Copilot, so I understand from the poll, a lot of you haven't yet set up any rules. No problem at all. This is what you'll first of all see. So here she is, your little automated works assistant. And it literally says it there. So Copilot allows you to create rules that can automate actions such as requesting quotes, instructing works, or notifying someone when an issue is reported. To add a new rule, you can either click at the top here where it says add a new rule, or you can just go straight to the middle here, add a new rule. When you do so, you'll see essentially 4 templates appear. The first one is just an empty rule. So that's what I'll be working from because I want to work this from scratch to show you exactly how this works. However, there are some other templates below. So for example, these will just help you get set up if you need to for this one. So it says on the left-hand side, out of hours, to notify your landlords, or just to instruct a plumber. These are some examples we've added to give you a helping hand, essentially. So for now, I'm going to start from scratch and add an empty rule. You can click anywhere on that, and it will take you through now where you can add a new rule. So with rules, essentially what you're saying to the system and to Copilot is, if X happens, you want Y to happen automatically. You just want it to just do it. And in saying that, with X, they are your filters that you're going to set up, and you can be as granular as you like. So you can essentially say, I would like for a certain fault at a certain property at a certain time during a certain period, I want that to be automated. And you can be much broader as well. So I'm going to go into much more detail about this just now. The first thing you need to add here is a rule name. Now, one thing that I have noticed on the system is if the rule name exceeds 50 characters, it doesn't seem to save. So just be slightly careful of that and make sure it's 50 characters or less. With the rule name, though, I would prompt you and advise you to be as specific as possible. You want to make sure that when you're looking at all of your rules, which I'll show you a bit later in the webinar, you understand just from the rule name exactly what that rule means. Also, if other members of staff are logging in and they're going on Copilot, they can read the rule name and they'll understand it. So try to be as specific as you can within that character allowance. Do apologize for that. I believe the developers are aware of it, and hopefully it's something that will be resolved soon. But for now, I'm going to add a rule name. So with my example that I'm going to show you now, I'm going to go through, if, for example, somebody is locked out, I want to automatically instruct the works. So I'm going to literally type in locked out, instruct to, and then I've just got my contractor's name there. This is just an example, guys, and I'm going to show you how it will work in real life once the rule's set up. Next here, we can enable the rule. I'm going to tick that, and just to let you know, if ever you want to remove a rule, you do have the option just to disable it rather than delete it, as you may need it again in the future. So to save time again, you can disable rules and re-enable them rather than delete and recreate. You can also delete rules though. So I've done my rule name. I know it's going to be enabled. And now below here, you can see we've got our filters on the left. And on the right-hand side of that, we've got the action. So essentially, guys, the filter is X. If X happens, we want Y, the action, to happen. As I mentioned before, you can get super duper granular here. So when you click here to add a new filter, you will see here you've got kind of like a little drop down. If I click on that, you'll notice that you will be able to set up all different types of filters. So I'm going to go through these one by one and then set up an example. So the first one here you can see is any. This is super broad. This just says any issue at all, anything that happens, you will want to instruct. Just below that, we've got covered by network. Now, guys, this is all to do with AXA. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we did partner up with AXA a couple of years ago, where you can actually deal with emergency issues and you can send them on to, rather than one of your contractors, you can send them on to our contractor network, AXA. It's a fantastic offering, and they mainly work, well, they do just emergency services, and a lot of people use them for out of hours. So they use them for bank holidays, evenings, weekends. It's a great thing to offer your landlords. And if you would like any information at all on AXA, please let us know. There's no monthly fee, there's no setup fee. It's simply you pay for the jobs that go through to AXA. They can be manually instructed to AXA as well, as long as they're emergencies. And if you want any information, let me know. The email address is support@fixflo.com. My colleague Mike is the AXA expert, and I will ask him to get in touch with you. He can send you quite a lot of information on it, and he will walk you through the process as well. There is also a help article on how you can set the process up if you just wanted to do it yourself, which a lot of people have been doing recently as well. So it's very easy to set up. So again, the email address is support@fixflo.com. If you want any information on AXA, I will get him to get in touch with you. The next one below here, so if you are using AXA, you must include covered by network for AXA to populate in the action. The next one down here, guys, is period. This essentially is a period of time, so a one-off period of time. You can set this over a week, a day, months. A lot of people use this for things like bank holidays, like Christmas, New Year, Easter, where they say that they want AXA, for example, or a certain contractor that's happy to work over these periods of time to resolve issues within that specific time period. It's also good, for example, you may want to say that actually you want boiler issues to be resolved during certain months, winter months, for example. If the boiler breaks in July or June at the moment, it doesn't really matter so much. It's not urgent as it would be maybe during midwinter. Next, we've got fault. So that is where you can get super granular and choose specific faults to be then automated on. Next here, guys, we've got fault priority. With Fixflo, when an issue is reported, it will be given a fault priority. They range from 0 through to 5. 0 obviously being an emergency, 1 being urgent, all the way through to 5, which is not urgent at all. These have been taken from the social housing standards, so that's where we've derived these from, and anything that wasn't on there, we've taken an educated guess at. So you could say, for example, anything with a fault priority of really high, so 0 or 1, you want to be automated on. What other people have been doing as well is having lower fault priorities, and they've been saying anything with a low fault priority of 3, 4, or 5, they want to notify the occupier to say, this is a low fault priority, especially during COVID. It's not something we're going to be working on ASAP. So lots of options around that. Here we've got time. Guys, this is recurring time periods. For example, you want this filter set up for every weekend, every evening, every Tuesday. You have kind of, I'll show you this one because I'm going to be using this one as my example, but you'll have kind of the week and all the hours in there, and you can select certain hours and days. Location. There's obviously no point of instructing a contractor who lives in London all the way up to Manchester. So if, for example, you cover a broad area, you can here, for example, add in postcode locations. So you can be specific in terms of that. So if someone reports a maintenance issue at certain locations, you want those to be automated. Underneath that, guys, we've got properties. So you can set up for certain properties to be automated. This can be really good for things like certain properties you would like, I don't know, landlords to be notified or something like that. So that can work really well as well. Property tag. I don't know how many of you are aware that you can now set up tags for your properties, and it's a really kind of cool little thing because it pulls into Copilot. Essentially what this means is you can set up tags within your Fixflo system, and you can then tag certain properties to those. For example, these properties all have gas boilers. These properties all have British Gas Home Care. All of these properties are with landlords that, I don't know, don't like Copilot. All of these different things you can set up. So with property tags, they can be imported. So if you would like to import tags to make it easier, if you've got loads of properties, you can do an import instead. So please get in touch with us again, support@fixflo.com, if you would like to import anything, and we can give you guidance on how you would do that. But it can work really well with Copilot so that you have all of the properties under a certain tag can be automated off. Landlord, so you can go landlord specific, and also raised by. So who raised the issue? Was it you as the agent? Was it someone else? So you can say if, for example, you raise it, you don't want it to be automated, for example. So if I have a quick look at my rule name, it's locked out. So the first filter I'm going to set up here is fault. So you don't need to set up all the filters. You can set up, though, as many as you like just to make it super granular. But for this example, I'm going to choose fault first of all. So I'll choose that from the drop down, and you'll see here now on this pop-up, all the faults have appeared that are available within my Fixflo system. So just to show you, this is to do with locks. So I'm going to find doors, garages and locks, which sits here, and I can tick the entire box, meaning that anything under doors, garages and locks that's reported can then go and be automated. So I can do that for if I want to choose that. However, I don't want that. I want it to be slightly more specific than that. So instead I can open up doors, garages and locks. I may want to open here locks and keys. And I may choose, for example, key lost, because someone's locked out now. Now I'm going to select any of those. So I've ticked that whole box, meaning if somebody reports that their key is lost and the property cannot be accessed, that the key is lost and the property can be accessed, or other within key lost, the issue will be automated. So I'm going to select OK. Once I've done that, you'll see the first filter type has been set up, and that is fault type. Now I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to get more granular than that. Because at the moment, if I continued now onto the action, that would mean anywhere, at any time, if somebody reported that they've lost their key, it will be automated depending on the action I set up here. So the next thing I'm going to set up is time. I think this one is used quite a lot as well, so I want to show you how this looks. As I mentioned before, this is where you set up recurring time, guys. So you've got all of your hours, and you've got all of your days of the week. So this allows you to say every Saturday, every Sunday, I don't know, every evening from, I don't know, 6 o'clock, I want this to be automated. I want that protection on real emergency issues. So I could do that here. That'll be automated. And I'm also going to select the whole of Tuesday because it's Tuesday today. And obviously I want to show you a real life example. And then I'm going to press OK. Time of the day shows here, and as you can see, I can continue setting up filters. So I may now want to go as granular as location. I may want to go as granular as certain properties. So you can do that if you want to as well. I'm going to leave it at those two for now because there's a lot to get through. And I'm now going to go to set up my action. So this is my if X happens is set up. Ready? I'm happy with that. I want Y to happen. So this I'm sorting out my Y now, and that's my action. Here I can click here to add an action where you can see there are 4 possible options here for me. The first one you can see on the left hand side here, it says do nothing, and I'm going to show you that in a bit more detail a bit later. Next one here is notify. Funnily enough, I've actually already had a question come through on email, so I'm not sure whether the person that asked that question is on the webinar today, but if you are, their question was, if somebody reported that they were locked out and they have HMOs, if someone reported they're locked out, can they notify the occupier with kind of a key code? And the answer is, of course you can. So in that case, you would want to click on notify here, where you can actually notify anyone. You can notify yourself, you can notify the landlord, the occupier, the leaseholders, all of the occupiers. So in that case, you may want to notify the actual occupier that reported the maintenance issue. You can add alternative emails as well. And here you could then add their key code. If you were doing this, you'd have to do it on property specific issues. So you'd need to add that as a filter to say, I don't know, property 1 Grange Road, room 2. So you'd need to make sure, obviously, put the right key code in for the right room and that you've set it all up properly, but 100% you can do that. You probably wouldn't want time on there in that case because you just want it any time, they just get notified, but you can 100% do that. So I did promise I would go through that. You can notify landlords of things if you want to here, so it's absolutely fantastic. So that's just an example. You can, as I mentioned, add additional emails as well. The next one here is instruct works. So I can automate this to instruct works straight to a contractor. This is outside of AXA. If I wanted AXA, I would need to have included on my filter covered by network. Your contractor will need to be on Fixflo already for them to pull through, but I'm going to add my favorite contractor here. And I'm going to add an instruction note as well. Perfect. I'm just going to keep that nice and light because of time, and then press OK. There was also the action of requesting quotes as well, so that is possible too. But for now, for this example, I'm going to go through and instruct the works. Guys, if you've been using Fixflo a lot, you'll know that you can only instruct works to 1 contractor per issue, so you will only be able to instruct the works to 1 contractor here. If you were requesting quotes, you could do that from multiple contractors. Here we go. I've now pressed save. That means that this rule is now set up. If I click back, you'll see this rule sitting here and it's enabled. Just to point out here, when you click on Copilot and you've got rules set up, you'll see the rule sitting here on the left-hand side and you'll see the number next to it here. There's currently only 1 rule and we're going to go through the order of the rules a bit later. You've also here got your hit count, which shows how many issues have actually been instructed or how many issues this has affected. So for example, when I do the example, that will go up to 1. You can edit the rule here, copy the rule, view the history, which is all of the issues that have essentially been resolved through Copilot or something's happened through Copilot, and you can delete the rule. As I mentioned before, if you're not using a rule, remember you can always disable rules here. So they can be disabled and enabled very easily with the click of a button. So rather than deleting something that you may need later, I would recommend that you just disable it. But obviously that is completely up to you. Excellent. So now I've got my rule set up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log out here and now I'm going to go in as an occupier. And the issue is that I have lost my key. I'm locked out. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the occupier side of the system. If you're not, we do have videos on this as well. And the issue here is I've lost my key. So I'm going to go to Doors, Garages and Locks, which sits here. I'm going to say it's a lock and key, and I'm just going to say my key is lost. Now, remember, I can click any of these options. I won't know this as an occupier. I'll have no idea, but obviously we know that any of these options I tick will automate through Copilot. Anything else I select at this time, there are no rules set up, so nothing else will automate. So for now, I'm going to say, gosh, it's all a bit dire. I've lost my key and I cannot access my property. Okay. Perfect. So just make this nice and simple and go next. Here we've got, you can add photos when you're reporting an issue as an occupier, and we must add the address. Now, in this scenario, I haven't added any locations or any properties or any landlords. So with this example, any address will then also automate. But obviously, if you've added filters about location or about properties, that will then affect this section here. Contact details. So obviously, the occupier will need to say who they are. Perfect. And finally here, confirm and send. So I'm not going to go through all this because I want to focus on Copilot today, but I'm just going to report this issue here as the occupier and submit the issue. Once that is done, so the first thing that actually happens when a new issue is reported is the issue will go to Copilot and it will say, do any of the rules and the filters match exactly what has been reported? If not, the issue will come through as a reported issue. If yes, then it will automate depending on the action you've set up for those filters. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log back in. And perfect. I'm going to go to my issues here and click on issue search, where I will see my issues in an ascending order. So here we've got it. Key lost and property cannot be accessed. So this has been reported today. You're probably quite happy. This is the one I've just reported at Fixflo House. If I click into that and go to the detail tab, you'll be able to see this is Olivia Coleman, who I've just reported the issue for, and that the issue was reported today at 11:25, so just now. We can see this issue has the issue status, job awarded, awaiting appointment date. We can see we are waiting for the contractor. We can see the reminder date, guys, is in the future. So if I haven't heard back by this contractor by Thursday, this issue will come back into my issues report, requiring action. And you can also check here, guys, the audit tab, which will show you that actually this has been automated. Just to let you know, the emails that go out initially to yourself to say a new issue has been reported, that will still go out. The occupier email going out saying thank you for reporting an issue, that will still go out. And the contractor will receive an email letting them know here that they have been allocated a job. It will all happen instantly. So as I mentioned before, guys, this really is saving you time. I just want to show you back on Copilot the importance of the rule order and also how do nothing works. I just want to mention, I think this is something I wanted to mention as well about Copilot. Copilot is good for reactive works. We wouldn't recommend it's used for planned maintenance. Planned maintenance has its own little feature up here on the left-hand side menu bar, which is absolutely fantastic and does its own automation. It allows you to set up recurring events. We have got videos on this. We have got a webinar recording on this that my colleague and I did a couple of months ago. If you're interested in planned maintenance, please let us know. Again, the email address is support@fixflo.com, and we can send you all the recordings that we have. The webinar also goes through in quite a lot of detail how you can import all of your planned maintenance as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. So back to Copilot. I'm going to add a new rule up here now. And I'm going to add this as an empty rule. And so this is me explaining do nothing. So what does do nothing mean? So you may, for example, have a landlord who, you may have a landlord that says to you, great, love Fixflo. I'm personally not keen on the whole automation thing with Copilot. I just don't really want it. No worries at all. What you can do is you can choose, for example, here I've got a rule name. And I'm going to say that's landlord Michael Moonling. Remember, we've got the character allowance, so I can't make that too long. And then going to enable this, and I'm going to add a filter here, and I'm going to choose landlord. With this, I'm going to now search for the landlord that doesn't want to use Copilot and press OK. Now remember, you'll need to make sure that this landlord is associated with the properties in order for this to work. Landlords, you can set them up so that they're associated with certain properties. If they are not, and an issue comes in for a property which is associated with that landlord, but it's not set up on Fixflo, you will find that the rule won't work because it needs to be associated. So I'm happy with that. I've got my landlord, Mr. Moonling. I'm happy. I've got my associations all set up. I'm now going to click here to add another action where I'm choosing do nothing. It won't ask you anything else. It will just say no action will take place other than the addition of audit history demonstrating that the rule has been completed. So to explain this further, I'm going to press save and now I'm going to hit back. Before I explain how this works, I want to, or actually I can do this with the order. So essentially what this means is for Mr. Moonling, any issues that come in for his properties, I don't want Copilot to work. So do nothing essentially means do not allow Copilot to do anything and the issue will come in as a reported issue. Absolutely no action will happen. However, if, for example, somebody is now locked out and they're locked out in the time frames that I've added for this rule here, locked out instructor Reggie. So for example, on a Tuesday, if they're locked out at one of Mr. Moonling's properties, the issue will come into Fixflo. It will go to Copilot and say, hello, Copilot, do any of the rules exactly match what's going on? And it will now go through these rules, 1, 2, and then if there was a third one, 3, and so on. If do nothing is sitting at number 2, that means that if it's a locked out issue for Mr. Moonling's property, the automation will still happen because it's gone to number 1 first and it will basically fly off and do its thing from number 1 and it won't even get to rule 2, if that makes sense. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to drag rule 2 up to rule 1 to ensure that Mr. Moonling's issues or Mr. Moonling's properties, nothing happens and the issue comes in as a reported issue. So now I've got this changed. Somebody is locked out at one of Mr. Moonling's properties. It's a Tuesday. They report the issue. The issue will come to Copilot and say, do the rules exactly match what's happened? And it will take number 1 and it will say, oh, this property is associated with Michael Moonling. Do nothing. So it will go through as a reported issue. It won't even reach rule number 2. So you need to make sure that the order of your rules are set up correctly in order to overcome if, for example, someone doesn't want anything happening. I hope that does make sense. And again, guys, I'm going to be sending you a recording of this webinar, so you can always re-watch that section if you want to. The order of the rules is important. We also have a snippet video of that as well. So we have videos on Copilot. They are broken down into chunks, and one of them is explaining the order of the rules. So please do feel free to watch that if that didn't quite make sense. I can see now my hit count for do nothing is 0. But for this one, locked out instructor Reggie is 1. I can click here on view history, which will take me through to these issues so I can see exactly what's going on, and I can actually click into the issue here as well. As well as finding it that way, I could always click into the issue and click on the history here if I want to. I really hope that's all made sense. A few questions have come in, so it's really good to see that you guys have got some questions on Fixflo. So question 1 is, can AXA see the Copilot rules for our out of hours service? So AXA cannot see the Copilot rules, but if an issue goes through to them, they will just receive the issue on AXA. If you want more information about AXA, I can definitely ask Mike to speak to you about it, but they won't be able to see the actual Copilot rules. No, they will not have visibility of that. This is something that you guys as an agency will have visibility of. Your contractors won't, but you might have contractors that say, oh, I want to earn a bit more money on a Saturday, you know, and you don't necessarily want to work on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday, and they may want to earn a bit more money and happy to be instructed jobs, but they won't be able to see that, neither will AXA. Guys, before I continue with the Q&A, if anyone does want to leave us now and doesn't want to stick around for the Q&A, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us today. I hope that you have found the webinar particularly helpful. When you come off, there will be you will be given a little link out to some feedback. Please, I'd really appreciate a bit of feedback. It takes on average 1 minute and 10 seconds to provide feedback. So it'd be great just to know kind of what did you think of the webinar? And please be honest, it is fully anonymous. And it's just good just to get some feedback from you guys to see if you're happy and what you'd like in the future. I don't know, so it'd be great to hear. Excellent. Next question. In the filters, can you exclude properties from the Copilot rules? Yes, you can indeed. And that is exactly what I've just shown you with this landlord example of do nothing. So if you wanted to do that, Emma, you would need to go to Copilot and set up a similar rule here to do nothing, but with properties instead, and make sure that that rule is dragged to the top of your rule list to ensure that that happens before anything else. If a contractor is assigned automatically through a Copilot rule, does the contractor info push through to our internal software, repeat, or just the works order? Ooh, that's a very good question. Let me see if I can find that out for you. I'm not 100% sure right now, so let me see if I can get that answer for you, but that's a very, very good question. I'll see if I can find that one out. And if not, Emma, I can always email you as well about that one. I'll have a look into that. Next question is from Dylan. Any examples of common rules used for inspiration to get some setup? Cool. So some of the common rules used, Dylan, would be, I mean, I can actually see if I can look into that and get a proper list over to you. As I mentioned, some people have been using, especially during COVID, if you're still pushing things back, you could, for example, set up a notification to your occupiers to say, thank you for reporting the issue. This is a low fault priority, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. At the moment, obviously, things aren't happening straight away. You could do that. That's one I've seen being used. I see a lot of people automate to plumbers and electricians that they use all the time, and a lot of people use AXA. It's really, really good for that out of hours emergency services, especially for things like Christmas, Easter, where AXA are happy to do that. Again, anyone wants any information on AXA, please do let us know. It's a really, really good little service there. But Dylan, if you'd like more, just email me and I'll see if I can find any more out for you for more inspiration. Linda, thank you for your email. Can you send issues direct to British Gas? You can indeed. That would be under notify. So again, if I click here to add a new rule, and I'm just going to go with an empty rule. Oh, can't spell apparently. There we go, British Gas. You would add the filters, and then the action would be notify, and you can add any email address here. So that's when you could, for example, notify British Gas. You can't instruct works to them unless they are already a contractor on your system, which I can imagine they're not, but you can notify them using any email address here. So you could definitely do that. That's no problem at all, for sure. Perfect. The only question left at the moment is the repeat one, which Emma, I'm probably going to email you about. I need to double check a few things on that, if that's okay. Excellent, guys. I'm going to be staying around for the next 5 minutes. If anyone does have any questions, I really appreciate you all joining me this morning, and I do hope you found this a helpful webinar. Again, I would really appreciate the feedback. It's just good to know kind of where we should go from now. What training would you like help on? Is this enough? Obviously, we've got recordings on all the other webinars we've done already. So we've done them on COVID-19. We've done them on planned maintenance, promotion, the dashboard. So if you've got any kind of questions on any of those things, we have got recordings you can watch. They are all available on help.fixflo.com, and I will be sending you a recording of this by the end of play today. I really appreciate all of your time, and I do hope that you're keeping well at the moment during these uncertain times. And as mentioned, I will be staying online just for a few more minutes for any questions that you may have. Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for joining me.